Hey, today we're doing another Butterfinger review, but this time it's a comparison video. So what we've got here is the old Nestle version of the Butterfinger bar in fun size. And we also have the new Ferrero version of the Butterfinger bar. Ferrero, as you may know, recently bought out most of Nestle's candy brands, and the Butterfinger is the first one that they've decided to change the recipe on, and they're advertising it here as a new and improved recipe. And we hope to put that to the test today. First off, here are a few charts detailing the differences between the listed ingredients of the two bars. The chart on the left lists all the ingredients in the old Nestle version of the bar, alongside the ingredient list of the new Ferrero version of the bar. Each list is given in decreasing order of ingredient predominance, with ingredients used in the largest amount being listed first and ingredients used in the smallest amount listed last. The key differences between these ingredient lists are summarized in the other table. The new Butterfinger bar is missing a net 5 ingredients off the Nestle recipe, with the majority of the missing ingredients coming from the loss of various stabilizers and preservatives to include monoglycerides, TBHQ, and citric acid. This marked reduction in ingredient count is likely no accident. The new owners of the Butterfinger appear to be pandering to a more health-conscious crowd, to whom ingredient lists should be short, void of hard-to-pronounce chemicals, and overall include more natural, simple-sounding ingredients. Whether or not this will be successful, given the already large acceptance of the negative impact of sugar within the health-conscious community, is a different story. The recipe also appears to have substituted cornstarch with yellow corn flour and peanut flour. The new recipe has swapped the primary oil from hydrogenated palm kernel oil to a simple mixture of palm kernel oil and palm oil. Soybean oil and dairy product solids are also completely missing from the new recipe. Most surprisingly, molasses and confectioner's cornflakes have been removed from the recipe. Cornflakes had been the primary ingredient used to provide the signature crispity crunch of the bar. Molasses had been one of 3 primary ingredients that formed the sugary base of the interior of the bar: molasses, sugar, and corn syrup. Here is a comparison of the nutritional facts between the two bars. This is from the fun size bar of each variant with a serving size of 2 bars. Notice how the serving size has dropped from 37 grams to 36 grams between the Nestle and Ferrero recipes. This would mean each fun-size Ferrero bar weighs half a gram less than the Nestle equivalent, a 2.7% decrease in overall mass. And mass was not the only thing to decrease significantly with the Ferrero recipe. The sugar content of the bar is also down an astounding 18%, from 17 grams down to 14 grams. At the same time, sodium is up 20%, 90 grams from 75 milligrams. And protein is up 50%, 3 grams from 2 grams. These changes seem to indicate this will be a more savory bar, higher in salt with a more prominent peanut taste, as the increased protein content indicates the peanuts make up a higher percentage of the bar, given peanuts are the primary source of protein within the ingredient list. This change to the Butterfinger formula is not the first. The most recent change, besides this one, came in 2015 when Nestle replaced the synthetic dyes Red 40 and Yellow 5 with a natto in order to remove all artificial coloring from the bar. The bar also went through a more major reformulation in the 1980s. This seemed to be universally accepted as a significant improvement in all aspects, however. Many claim that the true original recipe of Butterfinger hasn't existed since the bar was sold off by the founding company to Standard Brands Incorporated in 1964. And in truth, when looking at old photos of the Butterfinger bar, there is a distinct visual difference, especially when noticing the neater concentric rings forming the interior of the bar. While this might not necessarily point towards different ingredients than a modern Butterfinger, it at least points to a different manufacturing process which could have just as big of impacts to the taste and texture of the bar. The company, Ferrero, has made a point to say that most of the changes to the bar's recipe come in the form of what they claim to be higher quality ingredients. Butterfinger is now roasting peanuts in-house rather than relying on third-party suppliers. They are using a US-grown jumbo peanut that they believe gives more uniform roasting. Ferrero also claims the cocoa used for the chocolate has been upgraded. Despite these supposed higher quality ingredients, this so-called improved recipe is not resonating as an improvement to the fans of Butterfinger. There has been an onslaught of negative reviews and comments to Butterfinger's Facebook and Twitter pages and other social media. In fact, the negative reviews on their Facebook page appear to have been too much for Ferrero to handle, as they have since removed the review option from their Facebook page entirely. Before deleting this part of their page, their average rating had already fallen to well below 2 stars. Many are likening this reformulation to the new Coke incident of the 1980s. This was when Coke released a new and supposedly improved recipe for their iconic soda. However, the public backlash was so great that Coke released the classic formula as Coca-Cola Classic only months later, and it is still discussed as a disastrous brand move even 40 years later. The new Coke formulation stays on the shelves as Coke 2 many more years until 2001. Interestingly, a slew of very positive articles from various online blogs and news vendors were released around the end of 2018 about the new Ferrero Butterfinger recipe, before the new bars were even on shelves. All of these articles are extremely favorable towards the new recipe. However, after tasting the bar myself and seeing the mass of negative consumer reviews online starting in 2019, I find it hard to believe that these articles were ever anything more than advertisements bought and paid for by Ferrero. In the end, the picture is becoming more and more clear, and it looks like someone may have finally laid a finger on Bart's Butterfinger. And the culprit is the Ferrero Candy Company. So here we are back with the actual bars in question. Again, the Ferrero and the Nestle bar. So we'll continue with the review of this bar. First, let's just start off by looking at the packaging, because there is a distinct difference. And this is one thing that I think is actually better in the Ferrero bar. You see, this is, being the Ferrero bar, it's a brighter yellow, but also the packaging feels much thicker. I mean, this is a dual layer kind of plastic wrapper on the outside, but another layer of aluminum on the inside. So it's sealing in the freshness much better than this, which has been the standard Butterfinger wrapper for many years under Nestle ownership. Is simply just a very thin plastic wrapper. Oftentimes, if you squeeze it to create positive air pressure on the inside, you can usually feel it slowly leaking out. It's not an airtight seal. I'm not going to keep freshness in, as well as this, which has that aluminum layer that is firmly keeping the air that is inside the wrapper until it is opened. Okay. So now let's just open up each bar. So here's the Ferrero. You can see the aluminum on the inside of that wrapper. Okay, so we've got a little bit of chocolate crumbling off. That's pretty typical of Butterfinger. Now here's the Nestle bar being opened. Notice the inside of the wrapper, we've got no aluminum, just a thin plastic layer again. And here is the Nestle Butterfinger bar. So, from first impressions, the Ferrero Butterfinger bar, the chocolate is a bit more crumbled on that one. This one, it's less crumbled, and the chocolate has a bit more of a reflective, somewhat waxy look on the Nestle side, whereas on the Ferrero side, it's a much more matte looking chocolate, but definitely a distinct visual difference between the two bars so far. So let's give the Ferrero bar a taste first. Okay. Yeah, so one thing I noticed almost immediately is the interior of the bar, much flakier, much lighter than what can sometimes be the case in Nestle Butterfinger bars. So I don't know if there's still a inconsistency between the texture of the interior of bars, but back under Nestle ownership, it was often varied from being hard as a rock on the inside to crumbling into dust at the first bite. So this one is much closer to the very crumbly, very not a hard texture at all in the interior of this bar. Yeah. There's a much more distinct peanut flavor coming from this than I'm used to from Butterfinger. It leaves almost like I can definitely tell the peanuts have been heavily roasted. In fact, there's almost a lingering burnt taste in my mouth, almost as if the peanuts have been over roasted and burnt somewhat. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go right off from that and try a bite of the Nestle Butterfinger bar. This should be no news to me. I know what these taste like. I know what to expect, but it'll be interesting to taste this immediately following the Ferrero and maybe gain some new insights on some more differences between the taste. Yeah, that is the classic Butterfinger taste. Yeah, one more thing I'm picking up on is the chocolate over on the Nestle side is there. It's contributing to the cacophony of flavors that are hitting your mouth when you take a bite, but it's not overpowering. On the Ferrero Butterfinger side, it's the chocolate, I think, is a little too heavy, a little too dark tasting, and really gets in the way of the interior of the bar, which is really what you want to be tasting in a Butterfinger the most of. Here. Yeah. After coming fresh off a Nestle Butterfinger and biting into the Ferrero a second time, it's even more clear. I mean, it almost just tastes like burnt peanuts. And with the fact that I'm now feeling the Butterfinger stuck in my teeth, which is never a pleasant feeling, it's worth it for this Butterfinger. For this one, it tastes almost just like a peanut protein bar or something that's doesn't taste horrible. I mean, it's a chocolate candy bar. It's not going to taste horrible, but it's certainly not worth eating a candy bar for, or especially not having all this stuck in my teeth. Because I think there's many things that offer a similar flavor and texture to this that do not get stuck in your teeth. So this would not be something that I would purchase again. This, however, I think the chocolate and the interior pair much better together. And it's just an overall much richer, more complex flavor on the interior of the bar. It does not have an overbearing peanut taste, and certainly is not over roasted and burnt tasting. So that's many key positives over here in lieu of the Ferrero Butterfinger bar, which definitely does not seem to be an improved recipe. A different recipe, definitely, but not improved by any means. So, let's go on to the next step of this review process, which is preserving future test samples of these bars that can be reviewed on a later date, many years from now. So like we did in the last video, we will be taking 4 Butterfinger bars each, and we will be individually pairing them together and wrapping them in both plastic wrap, aluminum foil, and putting them in a Ziploc freezer bag for preservation. And one grouping of this will be retested in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and 40 years from now. So, let's begin wrapping them. Alright, now we will place them all into a shared Ziploc bag to be opened only 10, 20, 30, and 40 years from now. Again, the date today is February 14th, 2019, and this is a Ferrero versus Nestle Fun Size Butterfinger bar as the contents. Alright, it'll be interesting to see how this comparison review between the two bars holds up after 10, 20, 30, and 40 years. I mean, so clearly right now Nestle is the obvious winner, but I mean, I don't know. Perhaps Ferrero fun-size Butterfinger bars hold up better over long-term freezing than the Nestle bars do. So only time will tell. And again, thank you for watching.